All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I see that a number of participants are coming into our session now. I know it typically takes half a minute or minute for everyone to log in. So we'll get started momentarily. I want to thank you for joining us for the last session of the day, starting off GradStart for the spring 2021 semester. We are happy to have a graduate student panel made up of representatives from two of our larger organizations that represent a diversity of perspectives. And we really appreciate being able to pull everyone together and share those perspectives. So we wanted to make sure that you could connect with some peers right at the beginning of your graduate careers. So without me taking up too much of our panel's time, because we do have a great panel here, I'll turn things over to Jonathan Orsini, who will be running the panel today. Take it away, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt. So really quickly before we get started, just like last year, we're going to talk just briefly about our organizations. I can say that my name is Jonathan Orsini. I'm president of the Graduate Student Council here at the University of Florida. The Graduate Student Council is a student government funded organization of graduate students from all the different departments around the University of Florida. And our goals are generally to work with and within the administration to resolve graduate student issues, help administration and grad school work together, and network the disparate organizations around campus that are interested in working with us. So that's what Grad Student Council is. Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about OGAP?
Yeah, sure, thanks. So OGAP, for those of you who don't know, stands for the Organization for Graduate Student Advancement and Professional Development. And basically what our focus is providing opportunities and events that help foster improvements for graduate students, or ways of improving their their professional just improving themselves professionally and academically. And so we do this each year through working with the graduate school on the 3-minute thesis competition, as well as putting on our own event called Graduate Student Research Day in the spring.
Awesome, thanks. I'll add that Grad Student Council, probably one of our primary missions, and I should have said this first, is that we try to provide professional development opportunities through travel grants. It's probably one of the biggest reasons the organization exists. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about that more if they have questions later. Today, I'm just going to be moderating. I'm not going to really be answering questions, but we also do have monthly meetings with the Grad Student Council, and the new dates for this semester are just on our website. So if you just simply Googled UFGSC, you could see our meeting dates, and you can come and listen to what we're doing. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and just get started. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our members, our participants, to just introduce themselves quickly. And then we'll move on to the first set of questions. So I'm just going to go with who's on my list first. Olivia, could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you all. My name is Olivia Cayuet, and I'm a second-year doctoral student in the Agricultural Education and Communication Department. And I also serve as the International Affairs Chair for UF Graduate Student Council.
Sean, you're next on my list.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean Davis. I'm a third year going into fourth year doctoral student in the Department of Sport Management, and I serve as the new student coordinator for the Graduate Student Council.
Paul, you're next on my list.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paul Wassel. I'm a third year PhD student in the Genetics and Genomics program, and I also serve as a secretary of the GSC.
And Matt, do you want to say your background, where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm the president of OGAP, and I'm a PhD student in the Department of Biomedical Informatics here at UF within the College of Medicine.
Cool stuff. Okay, so then we're just going to jump right in, and just to our participants, if you have questions, feel free to just put them in the question and answer as we're going through. We have just a few set questions that we're going to ask the panelists first, just to get us going. But don't be bashful about adding questions to the question and answer as they come up, and then we'll get to them a little bit later in the panel. Okay, so the first question: what are some things that you like to do in Gainesville that new students may not know about? then you can just jump in when you.
Sure, I'll start off. So something that I've learned along during my time here is there's lots to do outside. There's Depot Park, which is really awesome. And then there's a trail that's called the Hawthorne Greenway that connects Gainesville and the neighboring town Hawthorne. So I really love to do those outdoor things like visit Sweetwater Preserve. And then I also love going to the different farmers markets that they have throughout the week, almost year round, which is really awesome.
Yeah, I'll second that. The Hawthorne Trail is really nice. It's about 20 or 30 miles of a nice paved road through, not road, but path through nature from here to the city of Hawthorne. And one thing that I like to do is I picked up cycling a few years ago, and Gainesville is very friendly to cyclists to have cycle lanes on almost every road and major roads. And there's a lot of hiking and trails that are paved for biking or walking or whatever through Gainesville and around town and connecting neighboring small cities and towns around. So that's fun.
Does anybody want to add anything about maybe where you like to go that has like outside seating in the, pandemic era?
It's really tricky because I've honestly not really been doing much stuff outside or like gathering places. I do know at Depot Park they have some outdoor seating areas. And then I've just been looking online and trying to find different restaurants that offer outdoor seating. Like on Archer Road, there's Bahama Breeze that has a really nice outdoor patio space. And I also noticed, I haven't actually been there, but University Avenue is bordering the university, and it looks like they've actually marked off some of the road on University Avenue to expand that outdoor seating right next to the university. So that's really cool. I think it's called Midtown is what that area is called.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of restaurants both in Midtown and in the downtown area that have outdoor seating. I think practically all of them also offer takeout, and that's actually something I would definitely recommend if you're new to Gainesville, checking out the restaurant scene, and at the very least doing takeout, because there are a lot of phenomenal restaurants here in Gainesville, which is, I think, something kind of unique for Gainesville's weird because it's kind of like somewhere between like a town and a city, or at least what most people would think of as like a town or a city. It's about 150,000 people. So, but there's a lot of really good food around town. A lot of good places to go on walks to to help burn off some of those calories around town. But yeah, there's like the historic district downtown that's pretty neat to check out during, toward the end of the day. I actually live downtown, so I go walking through there a lot in my free time. But, just some things to check out and think about.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. What are some tips you can give new students about balancing your research and your coursework and your extracurriculars with your personal life?
I guess I can jump onto that since I'm involved in quite a bit outside of even graduate student council. It's definitely challenging, but to make it to graduate school, you've probably already had to do a bit of this in undergraduate. So hopefully you have a little bit of experience balancing all of that, but it comes to a new level in graduate school. I know one rule that the previous secretary of the GSC told me is to only answer emails during work hours. I'm not very good at that, but it's something that I try and do when it comes to like graduate student council stuff. I definitely do it as a TA. I definitely won't answer student emails outside of business hours, but that's something that can help if you have to teach, is to maybe lay some ground rules for yourself like that to give yourself some personal time. But in the end, it's all honestly up to you. If you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, then there's many resources on campus that you can, we have the Counseling and Wellness Center that can help out. And Dean of Students Office has some other resources as well. So if you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, or, you feel like you need somebody to talk to, there's definitely a lot of resources UF has to offer.
And I'll add on to what Paul had to say. I've definitely become more protective of my time outside of the normal work hours. I've become more diligent with actually setting a schedule and trying to, even on a daily basis, scheduling out almost every hour of a work day. And then another thing that I've learned to help balance the teaching, the research, my academics would be setting priorities. So definitely looking at a syllabus at the beginning of the semester and go ahead and getting all those dates down on paper, because I've learned the hard way that projects can sneak up on you. So if you can start working on stuff in advance and know that that deadline is approaching, that's been really helpful for me.
One thing that I do is I schedule not quite as much as Olivia, but I schedule most days and what I'm going to be working on, but then I make it a point to also schedule downtime, or schedule in time to go to the gym, time to go to a sauna, or whatever I need to do, personal time, work that into the schedule, and make that a priority. I think some of the things that pandemic has taught us that we also need to sort of work on ourselves and our mental states, and really adding that into your daily schedule or weekly schedule, I think can really help, give you some sense of balance, but then also, stress relievers and relaxers too will help.
Okay.
I think
go for it.
another thing that I think another good tip, just to add to what everybody said so far, is to find something to do, like a hobby, for example, or some sort of activity to do outside of your school and research that complements the intensity of the graduate student lifestyle well, or at least can something that's flexible enough that you can make sure you can take time to do that activity to help relieve stress, or do something productive with your downtime, even though you might be working long hours throughout the day. And also just make sure, maybe try to do things that aren't just there as a form of escapism, but something that really helps enrich you personally. I think I've found that, like, exercising, for example, is something that I've recently taken up, just as a way of relieving stress, managing my weight, things like that. And I've found that it helps a lot, both mentally and physically, for my well-being.
Okay, I'm going to pause from the set questions just for a second, just because someone put a question in the Q&A. The question says, I'm an off-campus research. I'm at an off-campus research education center, new PhD student in agronomy. I did my master's at a rec center at UF. I would like to be more connected with campus activities in my doctoral studies. Any recommendations?
I would suggest first reaching out to your department, see if they have a student group. So in my department, we have a PhD student group, and we meet every couple of weeks, just on Zoom now, because we can't meet in person. But we meet, we all hang out, have a drink, talk about what's going on. If anybody has any issues with teaching, with research, with their advisor, with other students, or whatever, we just bring it all to the table and we talk about everything and what's going on. So for me personally, the last few years, that's helped me a lot to really feel, connected to each student, learn a little bit about their research. Maybe you guys could work together. I know I have 2 projects that I'm working on with 2 other students that came out of these meetings, and us just throwing back ideas around. So reach out to your department first, see if they have anything. And if they don't, maybe ask your advisor or your graduate student advisor, maybe about starting one, or about getting contact information for all the other doctoral students, and see if the recs have anything on their end too, because there are a lot of students across IFAS and CALS that are in the various research and education centers around Florida. So see there too, maybe they have a specific one to your rec or to all the recs. I would suggest starting there.
That's really great, Sean. And I'll add to that, seeing as you're in the agronomy department, something that's helped me feel more connected with the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences is attending some virtual events that, like the Vice President, Dr. Engel, might hold. I know he's done virtual town halls before. And then the Dean of CALS, Dean Turner, she will occasionally send out, like recently she hosted a movie screening and then a virtual discussion about it. So you may check your emails for different things coming out of IFAS or CALS.
I just want to add one thing to this. I feel like it's actually, as a former advisor, this is something that I've heard from, rec students before, is that they wanted to be more involved on campus, but it was difficult. Actually, given the current environment, because so many people are meeting via Zoom, you're probably in a better position to connect with campus now than you have been at any other time in a rec. So if there's not like somebody in your department or a group in your department that you want to, work with, check Gator Connect, to see what kind of clubs and organizations are out there at the university that you might be interested in, because most clubs are meeting, most clubs that are still meeting are all meeting virtually now. So you could probably more easily participate in those things. So I would, if you really wanted to get more involved, absolutely check things out there. I know all of our meetings are online right now, so it'd be very easy for you to attend all the grad student council meetings and then see if there's anything going on at grad student council that you'd want to get more involved in. And that's the thing, on grad student council, a lot of times when the e-board gets too busy, we'll ask departmental administrators or departmental representatives and other people that come to our meetings to maybe sit on administrative committees and things like that. And the only way you're going to know that if there's an opportunity like that that comes up is if you're in one of the general body meetings. So just some food for thought.
I'd actually also add that the Thrive letters or emails that are sent out by the graduate school, I think it's once a month or once every 2 weeks. Those are also a really good source of information for that.
Okay, well, I hope that answered that question. I'm going to move on to the next set question, and that is, what advice can you give new students about effectively communicating and working with your primary faculty advisor?
I can start with this because I got extremely lucky compared to a lot of my peers, in my opinion, in that I joined a lab where my primary advisor as a PhD student is spectacular, to say the least. So I've been lucky, but I've had to work with many other professors across campus who are, let's say, like more difficult to work with. So I've definitely had a mix of experiences, and honestly, the simplest way to deal with a lot of faculty members, et cetera, that you're going to come across is to really get to know them. Even if you feel like you might not want to get to know them, getting to know who they are, what they like, all of that kind of thing really helps if they'll open up to you at all, like going to office hours if they have them, if they're like a class professor, or if it's your professor himself sitting down in those one-on-one meetings and maybe trying to pull them away from your research a little bit and talk a little bit more like personally, if you feel comfortable with that. I think that can break a barrier sometimes and cause a relationship to be a lot stronger. And maybe instead of getting really mad at you that you messed up an experiment or something like that, they think about, hey, this person's a good person. I'd rather, them do good work or something like that. So I really am big on making personal connections, even in the slightest, like, talking about, like when you walk into a meeting with your professor, just saying, like, hey, how's your day going? Instead of just like automatically going into like your results. And so I've seen many different people treat these in many different situations, but I think that personal connection really helps, and it's helped me a lot.
So I'll add on to what Paul said. I think that's really important, what you said about personal connection. And that's something that my major professor and I will do whenever we get on a call, talk about how your weekend was, a little bit of personal chit chat before diving into work. My professor and I have an interesting relationship because we actually don't have a scheduled meeting time. And I know other students and their advisors will maybe, meet once a month or meet once every 2 weeks. Some even meet once a week. But I think it's important to just find whatever works for your particular relationship. So between my advisor, I know that right now we don't have any set meetings, but if I wanted to, then I could just talk to her about that and see if she'd be willing to. Right now we have a really strong email connection. And so that's primarily how we stay in touch, is sending emails back and forth. But I think something that's also worth noting is if you have conflict or need to talk about something, I have found it better if you can sit down in person. I know right now that's difficult, but if you have to have a tough conversation, to try to have it over Zoom or talking as opposed to email, because sometimes things can be miscommunicated that way.
If no one else has anything to add, I just want to add something on this one, just because faculty mentoring is something that's just really interesting to me from a research perspective. One thing I would encourage everyone to do as you come in with your faculty advisor is set expectations right away. Faculty advisors that know what they're doing will probably try to get that information out of you. They'll probably try to be proactive, but not everybody will do that. So if you're the kind of person that really wants to have, a lot of regular contact with your faculty advisor, I think it's really important that you say that right up front and let them know, so that you can set up regular meetings every semester as their schedules change. If you're somebody that doesn't need that as much and prefers to just check in via email, communicate that. I mean, you might not have a choice. A lot of advisors, especially with the more mentoring training they get, are going to want to meet with you pretty regularly. And I know in the in the biological sciences, you'll probably see them every day in the lab, and it's a little bit different. But just, think about what you want from your advisor and then tell them, because one of the things that often happens with advisors and students is the students just expect the advisors to know. And some advisors are actually good enough sometimes to do that. And other times they're just too distracted by their own work to figure it out. So just be specific. Does anyone else have anything to add on that question before I move on?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So along with being specific, Jonathan said, I found that communicating as often as you can with your advisor helps a lot. And from the very beginning of your research question, or if you have anything, send them an email as soon as possible. If you're questioning something about a paper you're writing, if you're not sure about the research project you're working on, if you're not sure about deadlines, anything going along with your research and your training as you go forward, email them as soon as you have an issue with it or have a question, because just having a question about something can become an issue, and an issue can become a huge deal if it's not talked about or brought up in the first week that you have the question, or month or year. I've seen a lot of relationships between students and advisors become strained because student wasn't sure what they were doing. They didn't speak up early enough to the advisor, ask them for help or ask them for a question. And the vast majority of faculty across campus are very nice, great human beings. They're there to help, and they're there to train you. So they want to help you. So if you have a question, it's always best to communicate that and ask as soon as possible. Just my suggestion.
Okay. What official resource at UF do you think is most helpful for graduate students? Or instead of narrowing it to one thing, what official resources do you think are most helpful?
That's a really great question. So immediately two came to mind. So the Graduate Student Council, because what you had previously mentioned, Jonathan, about funding opportunities, and that's a great way to stay connected with the entire university and things that are pertinent to graduate students. Each department has a representative, so you should be able to get information through your department representative. And then also Graduate Assistants United, I think, is a really amazing resource for students on campus, and they are a great advocate on behalf of graduate students. You can join that union for a nominal fee, and they do really amazing things like lessen student fees and advocate on behalf of student housing. Those are just a few examples of recent issues that they've gone to bat for us about.
Anybody else have anything they want to add about official resources? I know we've, oh, go for it.
Yeah, I have a couple things. So I think the graduate school itself actually promotes a lot of really helpful workshops and events that help cater to graduate students' needs, as well as OGAP, and we're largely funded by the graduate school. But there's like I mentioned before, the 3-minute thesis competition. It's a really useful way of trying to develop your skills of effective communication and being able to present information about your research in front of a general audience. And I've seen a lot of people go through there and do a really good job and talk about how it's really helped benefit their presentation skills and given them practice for conferences and presenting in front of other people there. The Graduate Student Research Day is another thing that is useful for that in a similar regard, in that you're able to present your research in a poster session to a general audience who may not have specialty in your field. And then, of course, I think there's the Black Graduate Student Organization does a diversity research seminar every year. Although this year we're actually pairing with them, so there wasn't one in the fall, but that's another opportunity for presenting research. The Counseling and Wellness Center has some good resources for at least short-term needs for mental health. They have like their biofeedback lab, which is good for any sort of anxiety that you're going through. They have pretty good triage services, although I would recommend getting, if you are struggling with your mental health, getting some sort of more permanent help for that. The Student Healthcare Center also has a lot of resources for reproductive health. I think if you're trying to lose weight, you could actually schedule a meeting with a dietitian. So there's really is a lot of things out there that the Counseling and Wellness Center and the Student Health Center are both providing students with.
Also, once you're signed up and registered as a graduate student, you get added to the graduate student listserv, and often you get added to a listserv within your own college. So for me, that's the College of Health and Human Performance. And we have the Thrive newsletter that's sent out every month, as Matt said earlier. And that is a really great resource. It has all kinds of things from funding announcements. If you're looking to get maybe some grant funding for your dissertation work, or some travel funding to go collect data for dissertation research or what have you. There's announcements in there about various student group meetings and large conference meetings and that kind of things, and also things that are going around on campus in the Thrive newsletter. In our college newsletter, it's similar, but it goes out every 2 weeks, and it goes into a little more detail about things that are going around for the college. So I would definitely say look for those emails, because you should start receiving them in the next week or two when they start going out. And for me, that's been a really good resource to look up, things about, movie nights when they're happening around campus, or if something large is happening and there's a big event going on, or there's one in the future, or there's workshops that are going on. If you want to learn how to write an abstract or how to, access various resources across campus. So some of these can be pretty valuable to work in. Those are usually just included in the monthly emails too.
One that I want to point out that I think is really good that I used recently to help me on a research project are the Liaison librarians. And I can actually link that. I think we actually have it on the, I posted a general link to some official resources that we thought were useful and that we've shared with students in the past. Here's the link to the Liaison librarians. I mean, like my particular discipline, I'm in leadership development. We don't necessarily have a librarian dedicated specifically to leadership development, but you have librarians who are dedicated to like discipline areas. And so we wanted some help putting together a scoping review on some literature, and the amount of resources and help we were able to get on that from the librarian was just incredible in a short period of time. So if you're stuck or you just need maybe a little bit of help collecting resources, sometimes the librarians could be a huge help. And I think a lot of people don't think to try to use them, but like, librarians are awesome. So we've gotten to the end of the set questions that we wanted to put out. I know that sometimes it's kind of tough in this format to come as an attendee and just have questions off the top of your mind. Hopefully we answered most of the questions that maybe you have. If you have more questions, and now would be the time to ask, please just throw them in the Q&A and we'll get to them. I guess I can say while people are thinking if they have any questions, is there any like final messages that panelists would like to add?
I guess I'd just like to add to take time to read emails. I know sometimes they can be overwhelming or maybe annoying, but even like what Matt had said about those Thrive emails, just take it open and just browse it. Just take a look and see if anything catches your interest. That's a really great way to learn more about the professional development opportunities, or like I found out about a SPSS free course that's only maybe 4 weeks long this spring. And that's something I've been wanting to learn more about, is how to run statistics. So yeah, it's amazing what you can learn from emails. They're kind of annoying, but it's worth the time.
Anybody else, any final messages?
I would be remiss to not mention we also have a fantastic sports at UF. And if you're looking for socially distanced things to watch or anything like that, I was heavily involved in a lot of the different Gator sports when I was undergrad. I was the president of the basketball student section. There's a lot of actual organizations that are involved in sports, namely, the basketball student section organization and different ones like that you can actually get involved in and become executive board members of and stuff. I know it sounds wild, but yeah, I mean, I know baseball should be starting up here soon, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have fans. So that's something to do instead of, instead of going for a walk somewhere, you go just watch a baseball game outside. It's a brand new stadium. So there's always things like that to do on campus, which is really cool because we have a lot of competitive sports programs, and it's always a nice family friendly event going on normally during the spring. And it looks like they're going to be allowing at least a select few fans. So hopefully some of you can make it out to that.
Yeah, so we did get a question, and I think is timely with what you were saying. And the question is, what is the vibe on campus during COVID? Is there a lot going on, or is it a little bit more low key given the situation? I mean, I could just say right from the top, in any normal year, I probably would have been on campus even during the middle of Christmas break. This time, I haven't been on campus now since, I don't know, a week before Christmas or longer. And when I'm there, there's never anyone there. So I know it's gonna be a little bit different in the spring because a few more courses than in the fall will be on campus face to face. But I mean, I would say in general that in the past several months, campus has been pretty dead. But they still are having scheduled events, but it's never as many people in one place. They're trying to be safe to stop the spread. UF, although if you look at the national stats, UF is not doing particularly well with COVID infections. With on-campus transmission, UF has actually done a really good job. They've done a really good job being safe in their events and things like that. So there's still things going on campus. It's not, it's just very scheduled out. And so that's just one more reason to check your emails and see what's going on, because generally you will receive those advertisements and you will see when there's something happening. But as far as just like a general like learning vibe that I've had the entire time I've been here, it feels a lot different now just because there's just not as many people on campus.
I will add to that virtually every event that I've seen like come across, or that I've seen come through my email in regard to like professional development stuff, or things provided by the graduate school, they've all been offered virtually. And in fact, I think they've been 100% virtually. So they're really, right now especially, I don't think there's very much in-person events going on. I think some classes will be in person in the spring, but I know my department has offered people the opportunity to take the class via Zoom or I guess virtually instead of going in person, even if they did schedule in-person section. So that's what I'm seeing is a lot of people, at least even within departments, are taking the pandemic seriously and doing everything they can to promote social distancing and provide access to it.
I'll add to that and say that Paul and I serve on the University Library Committee. And so if you're primarily online classes, but you still are close to campus and you want to feel more connected to the university, you may look at visiting one of the many libraries on campus. I know they've been doing a really great job with social distancing and having available hours. So that's a place that you could go to still kind of feel connected to the university if you're still mostly virtual.
And then I think also if you kind of want to just get the college vibe of being on campus and everything, campus is basically one big park. So if you ever just wanted to, if you're working at home and you feel like you need to get outside or whatever, just drive over or walk over and you can walk around campus and it's actually really nice. I don't know how many of you have actually stepped foot onto UF's campus yet, but yeah, it can be kind of relaxing, and at least you kind of feel like you're around people kind of, even though you're outdoors, and things will still be happening on campus in the spring. It's not like it's going to be a complete ghost town. There will be people there and everything. So it's always nice sometimes to walk around some of the nature areas we even have on campus as kind of a relaxation thing. So.
And I'll just add one more thing. Alice Lake is really nice. That's on campus, what Paul is mentioning. And if you're looking to go to the rec center to work out or to the libraries, they both have apps that you can put on your phone where you can actually check the capacity. So before even going over to the UREC center, you can look at your phone and see if it's like at 80% capacity or 50%, so you don't find yourself having to wait in a line to get in.
Good stuff. Okay, well, I don't want to keep everybody longer than necessary. So if we'll, pause a few more seconds for people to see if they have any questions, or maybe a full minute. Oh, yep, and there comes one. Are there any student groups which actively help in teaching students who are completely new to some games? I can say just from my experience on campus that in the past, if you're talking about like rec sports, there have certainly been groups of people connected to rec sports and student organizations that would help teach you how to play. I don't know about right now, just because it's harder to teach someone how to kind of like do something without being there in person. I'm not sure how many of those groups are still active, but in the past, it has absolutely been something that happens on campus. I don't know if anybody has newer information than that. My information is a couple of years old on that.
So I believe they are bringing back like intramural sports and stuff in the spring. I'm not sure if they have it in the fall, but I know it's going to be around in the spring. That's something else I did as an undergrad was actually refereeing and doing that kind of stuff for intramural sports. So yeah, there's definitely some, intramural sports of people of every level of different things come in play. So it's not like you have to know the game perfectly. You could grab a friend or two and make an intramural sports team. And it's also an outdoor activity that a lot of people feel comfortable doing as well. So that's something to look into. I'm not sure what COVID protocols and stuff are going to be like for that, but yeah, it's definitely intramural sports is a cool way to learn maybe a new sport or a new game. I mean, sometimes they'll do flash tournaments where they'll play some weird sport that you've never heard of, but it turns out to be really fun. So.
Yeah, Sean, do you remember, like, I know Sean and I were on a softball team for a while. And I can say that from that softball team when we started was probably an embarrassment to all softball ever played anywhere. But, by the end of having played together for a while, just by going out and playing in a friendly, because some of the leagues that Rec Sports has are called non-competitive leagues. So in theory, in those leagues, it should all be people that are just trying to figure out how to play. You can have a lot of fun. So obviously, if you're new to a sport, without getting somebody to help you, don't join some of those competitive leagues, like especially in like flag football, basketball, and softball. Those competitive leagues can get really competitive. So if you're just going out for some fun and want to learn, look for some non-competitive leagues too, assuming that they're active in the spring. I think you definitely have to check the Rec Sports website to see about that.
And this isn't necessarily sports games, but the Center for Outdoor Recreation and Education is located right next to the rec center. And that's a great way to get out and take day trips. I know that they've actually started doing day trips again in small groups where you can, go snorkeling or go floating on one of the many springs that are near Gainesville. And that's something really cool to do. Just see the brilliant blue water, go see manatees. So they offer a number of different hiking, floating trips, and then they also have gear rental.
Yeah, if you ever have a chance to go to any of the rivers around here or any of the springs and do any canoeing or tubing, I definitely recommend it. I mean, I personally think that the canoeing is way more safe right now and also just way more peaceful, but especially as things maybe start getting safer, the tubing down the river is a lot of fun. So if you have a chance while you're in Gainesville to get into one of those springs, I would definitely do it. Okay, so I can see it's going to be about 2:45. So I'm going to go ahead and call it. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to contact us at the UFGSC website. I'll put it here. Matt, do you want to leave OGAP's website also?
Yes, let me add that right now.
Okay. So our contact information is there. So feel free to reach out if you ever have questions. For example, we just had a student relatively new to campus reach out to GSC the other night and had some questions. And he just wasn't even sure where to start. And so if you have a question about something going on campus and you're not even sure where to start, starting with us or OGAP, just getting some information from other grad students is always a good idea. With that, thanks for taking the time to join and listen. I know it's weird times, but I hope you still enjoy your spring semester here at UF. And I hope to see you virtually around campus.
Thank you, Jonathan. I want to thank all of you on the panel. And as I said, please do reach out to GSC and OGAP. They're great representatives of all that there is to offer here at UF. They'll be available if you need to reach out anytime. Thanks again. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.